Did you read that?
So I didn't read it, but I saw some people talking about this.
Yeah, I loosely skimmed it right before we came on.
I probably won't be ready to talk about it, but yeah, it's just crazy.
No, yeah, I don't want to talk. I want to kind of talk. I think this is what I want to say, and we'll just get in right to it. Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed evangelicals meet. And for those of you watching live on our YouTube, for those who are supporting us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Reformgelical and support us. We'd really appreciate it.
I would.
Yeah, I'd do it too if I wasn't here already. Where are those glasses? Put those glasses back.
Oh yeah, these are pretty sick glasses. Oh,
those are great, man. If you are listening to this show on a podcast, you need to go on YouTube and check out AD's new styling glasses. He's legit. Yeah.
These are infant size glasses.
Yeah.
I grabbed these because actually today I was going to do a Smooth AD episode on my YouTube channel. And normally I have those Gospel Coalition glasses, those green, and they're actually literally Gospel Coalition glasses.
No, they're not.
They are. Yeah. I won't tell you where I got them, but anyway, in the move, I don't know where they are. So I grabbed the first glasses I could find, but they were like infant sunglasses.
Yeah. I totally think they're your kids. But what I was saying before the show is I think George Floyd and all those police officers that got arrested are going to get acquitted.
Well, listen, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know either. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's a hunch.
Well, I saw James White talking about this, and he said that the fact that they upped the charges makes him think that they're going to acquit him because it's like he thinks that with the lower charges, it's much more likely to be able to actually convict. But with the ratcheted up charges, with the penalties associated with it, the burden of proof that you have to meet, he thinks that's actually a road. Maybe this is a conspiracy theory. I don't know. But he thinks that's actually a road to try to please the crowd. But at the same time, these guys are going to get acquitted.
That's not going to please the crowd whatsoever. I guarantee it.
Obviously, but there's nothing.
And those riots that are going to happen after their acquittal, or if that happens, is going to be worse than it is right now.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and I'll say something else too here in the beginning. I actually wasn't ready to talk about this, but I'll just say it. I saw some people sending me this article about how supposedly it's leaked that the Ahmaud Arbery, the first one of these two race riot things, that the two guys were heard on the scene saying effing N-word, and they've said that a bunch on Facebook and stuff. And so they're like, see, all you people who said there was no evidence of racism, you're idiots. And it's like, but the thing is, like, we're not, though, because at the time there was no. So even if I believe this leak, which I don't necessarily, because why would I?
Leaks haven't had a good track record of late.
Right. But even if I did, it's like, why would that put egg on my face? Because you're the one who jumped the gun, not me. I just said at the time, and if you notice in my videos, this is not my first rodeo. In the videos, I said, there is no evidence on May 23rd at 7:15 p.m.
Timestamping it.
I was timestamping it because I knew what these people would do. The social justice warriors can't lose in their brains. It's like, if there's evidence of racism, okay, then it's racism. I would agree because, that's logical. But if there's no evidence of racism, it's the worst kind of racism, the kind that's covert and covered up by everybody. So it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It doesn't matter. And so it's like only a weird, twisted mind would be like, see, you guys are so stupid. It's like, no, I just actually did what I'm supposed to do and wait to hear every fact.
Right. Yeah. Actually.
And that's just assuming that these leaks are correct. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But this is not my first rodeo. I've been down this road before,
Yeah. I forgot who it was. He's a pastor on Twitter, a good guy on our team, and he had a really big following, which is encouraging. But he was saying that people were going after him for coming out with a stand or a position too late all the time. And he's like, isn't that exactly what we're supposed to be doing as Christians? Like waiting to hear a matter, being wise.
No, but it's seriously, especially with the way we have this social media, right? Like you have to process everything in about 5 seconds. Summer Yeager, this is so funny. I was on this tweet.
Oh, okay.
Summer Yeager on Facebook today or Twitter, I don't know, whatever. She was saying how today she was at the aquarium with her children,
I saw that.
having a nice day, and somebody was on Twitter telling her that she wouldn't respond to his tweet because she was of the devil or something like that. Yeah. And I was on that tweet too, and I'm just like, what planet are these people on? So you have to process everything. You have to do it just like this, just like they do. Yeah. Otherwise, then you're complicit. I saw someone in my neighborhood has a sign up on their window that says, "If you're not enraged right now, you're part of the problem." And the thing is, I laughed when I saw it. I was walking and I laughed.
You did the opposite. You're really part of the problem.
I laughed because I'm like, there's like 10 things going on right now. Which one are you talking about that I have to be enraged about? But it's but yeah, if you don't respond the right way, then you're a sinner. You're complicit.
I know. Here's a little inside baseball for everybody. We all have lives outside of this podcast. Well, we have family.
Maybe not all of us.
I mean, you, me, Summer, yes. Fight Laugh Feast Network. We're doing about 1,000 other things besides being in front of a mic or on Twitter all day. So just hold your horses, take a breath. We'll get back to you if it's worth it.
Listen to this one. Good. Listen to this one. So somebody messaged me, private message, this lady who put a video out calling me out. And I didn't see it in real time because again, I'm not, I think it was last Friday. I mean, I'm watching a movie with my kids, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so he forwarded it to me and I watched the video and it's this lady, she's an attorney. And she's saying, "I'm calling out James White. I'm calling out Virgil Walker. I'm calling out Daryl Harrison and Adam Robles." She called me a social media influencer, which that was a compliment.
Yeah, that's a good group of people to be part of, too.
Anyway, so she said, we need to talk. We need to talk about whether or not a Christian should be engaged in social justice. Reach out to me. And so I emailed her. I was like, what do you have in mind? Because I'm not going to just agree to a conversation I don't know what it's about, obviously. Right. Because, these people are crazy. Like sometimes they'll say, okay, you take the position that a Christian shouldn't care about justice. And I'm like, but I don't believe that. Why would I take that position? Yeah, right. Anyway, so she didn't respond. I emailed her the next day or maybe 2 days later. She didn't respond. And then on Twitter, somebody messages me, why didn't you accept her offer to talk? And I said, what are you talking about? I emailed her. And she goes, no. I was online. She was online. We were waiting for you, and you didn't show up. I'm just like, number one, I don't know what you're talking about. Number two, I have a schedule. I can't just show up when you tell me to.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm an influencer.
I'm a social media influencer, man. We got busy schedules.
Oh, my goodness. You totally go farther than anyone else I know, though, with people where you actually accept phone calls from like almost everybody.
I do.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I have to have like 3-step verification process. Okay, what do you want to call me about? What do you want from me? What are the bullet points of this meeting? Because like if I accepted every single meeting that people wanted to call and talk to me about, I wouldn't have time to do anything else productive.
Well, luckily, most people don't want anything to do with me. But no, but I do. Listen, if you have a problem with me, there's probably there's a handful of people that if you wanted evidence that I listen to people tell me off if they want to tell me off, they'll be glad to tell you. I'll tell you their names, and they've had an opportunity to say, "Here's what my problem is with you." And stuff like that. But the thing is, like every time I have a conversation like that, we always leave the conversation feeling better about each other. Mm-hmm. They understand where I'm coming from. They don't agree, but at least they understand. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think, and every time it's always led to better relationships, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
There's one in particular that it changed our entire relationship, and really? now we're very friendly, and we don't agree on everything, but there's a lot of banter, and I'm not going to out him because I don't want him to. I don't want to have him have to answer for me.
Our Scott Clark's going through a lot right now, anyways.
I wish, man. I would love to see where he's coming from because I honestly don't know sometimes.
Yeah, anyway. That would be interesting. So conspiracy theory.
Wait, well, hold on. Did you see he's getting canceled?
Yeah, I don't know why though. I was very confused.
I don't know either, but. I'll defend him though. I mean, listen, if he didn't say anything wrong, I'll defend him.
Man, then wouldn't it be great if we come to his rescue and his aid and then he gets dumped in the federal vision camp?
I don't think that. Yeah, that. I just realized what you said. I don't think that. I think that a guy like R. Scott Clark, no matter what he said, even if it wasn't bad, I think he'd probably just cave to the mob instantly.
Really?
He'd probably just apologize.
Interesting.
This mob, not like a theology mob, but like the social justice mob.
Mm-hmm.
He'll just be like, "I'm so sorry, I offended you." You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. Drew Brees did just apologize for not like agreeing with Colin Kaepernick or something.
At least there's millions of dollars at stake for him, though. I don't think that's the case for Scott Clark.
Thousands of dollars for our Scott Clark, maybe.
A couple $100, maybe.
$200. Oh my goodness! So, did you see the leader who took a stand today on Twitter and said America does not burn churches? Did you see that?
No.
Oh man. Yeah, it was actually Donald Trump. It wasn't anybody from Big Eva or anything. But it's like I retweeted that, said beat Big Eva to the punch. I just bring that up not just because it's funny, but also because I just crave for the day that we have leadership as Christians that don't equivocate and that will speak clearly like that. Like, yeah, there's like nuances, and yeah, maybe there is a time to burn down a church for some reason, like you want to build a new church there or something. But you don't have to like say that. You could just be straight up like, hey, it's not good to burn churches down. That's not who we are. I just crave that from our leadership.
Yeah, Trump has said some dumb things in his career.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with everything he says. I think some of the times he just listen. I'm provocative, but. Again, at the same time, I'm not the leader of the free world. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right. He says some stupid stuff. I mean, and I have to agree with people who say he says some stupid stuff. But I absolutely appreciate how straightforward he is a lot of the time, because he's much clearer and much more correct so often than leaders in Big Eva who just confuse things. In fact, I did a video the other day where Trump is clear. He says something very clearly about how churches are an essential service. We can't ban churches. That's ridiculous. That's against what we are. And instantly Russell Moore gets online and starts confusing the issue. Instantly. Like that's the first thing he thinks to do. Oh, well, hold on. I can't have this. And then he just confuses the issue. It's like, I just want clarity, man. Like sometimes it's good to have no quarter.
Yeah. And I was really thankful for what you were saying on your show, like just coming out and saying a lot of these people that we're having communications with, it's no longer is it interfaith dialogue? We're like talking to another faith in a lot of respects. And I was looking at Russell Moore's Twitter, his Twitter handle and the articles that he was writing and publishing and tweeting. And I just kind of was like, man, you're just race baiting. Like the things that you're talking about and just going along with the narrative, saying that this was racist. I don't know about you, but I have not heard of any evidence that any of these have been racist, except for what you just brought up earlier in the show. But before that leaked verbiage, I still to this day have not heard any racial remarks, evidence, proof whatsoever. And yet we have race baiters like Russell Moore tweeting about it, writing articles about it from the ERLC, saying that racism is this huge problem. And that is not helping anything. It's not bringing clarity. It's not bringing truth. It's not bringing the gospel. It's just inflaming the situation. It's infuriating.
Let me say something else too, because you're 100% right. It's inflaming the situation. There was no evidence at the time of this besides the skin colors of the people involved, which is so racist. Everyone can see how racist that is.
Yeah.
But even worse, it puts people, it's so manipulative is what it is, because what will happen is someone will put out this very reasonable sounding, thing. They'll say something like this. They'll say, I'm calling for a day of prayer and fasting so that God will search us out, and any hint of racism in us, he can just eliminate it. And it's like, I have to agree with that. I want that too, because if there's any sniff of racism in me, I want it out. You know what I mean? I want it out of me. So I can't disagree with that. But the problem is when you say that in this cultural context, there is strong implications that there's something going on that there is just no evidence of. So it's like when you're in the prayer group and the person is praying to God and she's gossiping while she's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm so God, I hope that finally that Bertha can find a husband, and she's been trying for so long and she just can't find a husband no matter what she does. I pray that you provide. Like it's just like the worst. It's so bad. I hate that so much. It's so manipulative. I cannot stand that.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And another article that you shared, or it was a clip. It was one of the clips you said was the best ever. Was Dave Rubin and Larry Elder, and it was, I like Dave Rubin, and I think this was like earlier on in his career because now he's kind of got it. But Larry Elder is one of those guys like James White, where he has like perfect recall and knows all the facts of every situation you could possibly talk about with him. And like, just as a podcaster, when you go in to interview people, you size them up beforehand. Okay, I can't be aggressive with him because I'm going to get burned. I can't look stupid. Dave didn't do this with Larry Elder in any sense whatsoever. But the thing I loved, and what I want to ask all of these race baiters in our camp, in our Christian camp, they're just going along with it, is what are the specifics? Give me the details. What are the statistics? What are the facts? Stop generalizing, because like God calls us to repentance of specific things, not just generalities. Right. And so like, it does us no good either.
Yeah. So that clip is amazing. It's a great clip. Yeah. And Dave Rubin has said many times that moment was his red pill.
Really?
He never recovered from that.
Yeah, you could see it on his face, man.
You could see his brain break, right? Yeah. His brain breaks. And the great part about Larry Elder, what I appreciate about him so much, is that he's always calm. He's even keeled. He's sharp as anything. You know what I mean? Like, and he doesn't get up. And even in that clip, he's like, "Oh, I'm not mad at you. I just want to know, like, why do you think that?" You know what I mean?
He's all laid back in his chair, just chilling because he knows he's got him. Yeah.
It's very similar to Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson's always like that. It's just like calm, there's nothing really rattles him. And Larry Elder's a genius communicator, no question about it. That video, it didn't red pill me because I already knew a lot of that stuff because I just was interested in the topic. But I'll say this about that video is that was probably one of a couple moments when I realized I wasn't crazy. Because you don't understand, like when you're on these islands where like everyone seems to be against you, which is a fantasy. It's actually not true. And if you're listening to this, if you're against critical theory, you're not alone. Even though you're made to feel like you're alone, you're not alone. There's a lot of people like you. Amen. But you're made to feel like you're on this island, and sometimes you start to think, like, am I a heretic?
Yeah.
Like, am I like, is this what a heretic feels like? Like, am I just crazy? And then there's moments like this when you watch Larry Elder, and it's like it solidifies you, it emboldens you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
And I have that same experience this week, and that's why I'm so appreciative of what you were talking about with these. Okay, and he's not talking to me. All right, I give him a thumbs up, and I'm like, did I do something wrong?
No, my wife went outside to see the chickens because they're making all kinds of noise, but they're fine.
Okay, good. I was concerned about them. I forgot to ask.
Yes.
But. And it's weird, just even though I'm definitely not a critical race theory person, I think all of this stuff is nonsense. Like, I still have this hesitation to say the things that I feel because I think, wait, maybe I am wrong. Like, maybe I am a little racist, or like I still have those thoughts, and I don't believe it at all. But still, I feel like there's this second guessing. And so when I hear people like you saying, like, hey, like these people aren't even speaking the same language as us, they're not even in the same faith anymore. It's like, oh. Thank God. I thought I was crazy. Like I was second guessing myself, but I'm glad you do. I'm not crazy anymore, or I don't think I'm crazy anymore.
So, well, if you're crazy, then we're crazy together. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's all right. That's what this show's all about, being crazy together. But here's another fun fact. Okay, so I want to go back to this because I really want to prepare people for this. I think they could be acquitted. For one, the conspiracy theory that they were all white cops is wrong. Did you know that they weren't all white?
I did.
Oh, okay. I just found that out today.
But I think a lot of people, I don't think you're alone in that. I think most people thought that they were all white guys.
Right. So
there's
all
like
these
a Vietnamese guy, and then there's another kind of color of the rainbow, right?
Yeah, I don't know what he is, but I don't think he was white. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it there before I get in trouble and like classifying people or whatever. Yeah. But so really, who are the conspiracy theorists? Is all these big Eva people saying it was racist? They're the conspiracy theorist ones.
Well, you don't understand though, Matt. In critical theory, whiteness it's a skin color, yes, but it's also an attitude. So that Vietnamese guy is white.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel sorry for Asian people because
Me
a
too.
lot of times, like, they are a minority, but they're so successful
Yeah.
that they don't get the pros of either side. They don't get the victim minority status,
That's
but
right.
then they also don't get the right white privilege,
It's so true.
right?
I feel so bad for Asians, man. The Asians, listen, Asians get the short end of the stick because on the one hand, they're people of color.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say which color. They just, you can use your imagination. They're people of color, so they don't get the white status. They don't get the privilege. They don't get the extra advantages. None of that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're vilified because they're more successful than white people, which is really weird for a white supremacist nation to allow Asians to be more successful than they are.
Yeah, the systemic racism has a lot of loopholes in it, apparently.
There's quite a few loopholes in the systemic white supremacist racism. Well, I heard a wild conspiracy theory once about this. I heard that white people, listen to this. Listen, this is going to bake your noodle. I heard that white people got together back in the 60s, I think, or the 50s, and they gave Asians some economic power. They gave them the cosmetics industry and the food industry. And they said, and the reason they did it, I'm not joking. I heard this from a propped up, social justice warrior.
Oh,
The reason they did it was because it was a strategy to keep them divided from the blacks to hold the blacks down. So they said, okay, we'll give you a little privilege just so that you can divide and conquer. You know what I mean?
oh,
You give them some so that we can still hold the blacks down, because everything that the white people do, everything, is to keep the blacks down.
yeah. We're the ones burning down their neighborhoods right now. That's
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Are you serious? That's like somebody seriously said that.
Yeah, somebody that was at the head table of the SBC convention little powwow. Yeah. You want to know who it was?
Yeah.
Kyle James Howard.
Wait, he was at the head of an SBC table?
Oh yeah, he went out to lunch with Beth Moore, Russell Moore, Matt Chandler, Micah Edmondson, the whole crew. And they took a picture. And it was a really, really funny picture because
when was this?
This was back during the MLK 50 thing, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe like shortly thereafter. But it was a great picture because the table, they took a picture. They were so proud of themselves all together. And every white person was on one side of the table and every black person was on the other side of the table. It was a segregated table. Gotcha.
Oh my gosh.
So stupid. But anyway, he spun that yarn on Twitter the other day. Or not the other day, one day. And really? I couldn't believe it. I was just like, this is the most wild story I've ever heard in my life. Because basically the idea is that every decision, well, first of all, the idea is that Asians could never have done anything on their own. It's only because whites gave them the power. And everything that the whites do is like this secret strategic thing to hold blacks down. So they might have given Latinos a little bit of privilege as well, because Latinos don't have it as bad as blacks typically. So maybe what they did was they gave us a little power just to give us a little taste so that we would, stay in line a little bit, just so they could keep the blacks down. That's what they did.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. It's funny because like the people that make these arguments, like the racism, it's kind of under the undertones, but it just drips racism so much. It's crazy.
And what's amazing, Matt, is when you hear a white person spin a yarn like this, or when you hear a white person say that white people, like he'll say, my fellow whites, we have to use our privilege to help prop up the blacks. We have to give them some of our privilege. And it's so amazing because I know what they're trying to be nice. They're trying to do the right thing, but that's so racist because it's like those blacks can't do nothing unless we act. You know what I mean? Like they got nothing unless we yield space to them because they're incapable of taking space for themselves. And that's the thing, man. There's so many blacks and Latinos out there that don't buy into this because because we see, you know what? We're in control of what we input to this. Like we don't have control over the results sometimes, but I can work really hard. I can do certain things. And the whites, you notice that the blacks and Latinos that are against this tend to be pretty successful. And the reason why they're successful is because they don't have this attitude of failure no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just how it is. And the critical theory people would say, "Oh yeah, well that's why they're for white supremacy, because they've been given privilege in the white supremacist system. They can figure out how to thrive in a white supremacist system." And I'm just like, okay, fine. So why don't you figure it out then?
Yeah.
If I could figure out how to thrive in a white supremacist system, then certainly you could as well.
Right. Or like all the Asians.
Or every single
single Asian.
Right. Yeah. And not to mention the fact that there are plenty of black ethnicities, because black isn't an ethnicity, by the way, just a skin color. But there are plenty of black-skinned people that are very successful in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They're
usually immigrants from Africa, from the Caribbean. They're not African Americans. They're
they're usually immigrants.
Right.
And they come in here and they work their tails off.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I guess working your tail off is the way to get out of a white supremacist system, I guess. Imagine that. And weirdly, that's also the way just to get ahead in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's also true for white people, believe it or not.
Believe it or not, if a white person wants to get out of the white supremacist system, they also have to work hard.
Yeah. Oh, just even poverty. I mean, just pull it out of the racial game at all. If you're a poor white person, there are some around here, you know.
No.
I know, right? None of us. I'd love to hear what Kyle J. Howard says about that. But
I know exactly what he would say.
What would he say?
Do you want to know what he would say, Matt?
Yes.
He would say this. Sure, there are poor white people out there, but skin color had nothing to do with their poverty.
We say it like that. Is that how he talks? I've never heard him talk.
Mm-hmm. No, he definitely doesn't talk like that, but I'm not going to say how he talks because people will say I'm mocking him. He's got a list. He's got a speech impediment.
Oh, he does?
I can't do it.
I've never heard him. I've only seen his tweets. Okay. Don't go down that road. But you know what's funny? As I was thinking about this the other day too, is it's not surprising to me that this critical race theory has kind of taken hold, where it's like, oh, there's a suppression and black people, minorities can't do it on their own. They need white people to do it, because we become who we worship, and a majority of our country worships the government. And what does the government say? Is we need to have affirmative action to benefit minorities.
That's so true.
This is just a logical extension of the policies we've had as a government for so long.
That's so true. That's so true. And the thing is, what's amazing about what you just said, you become like you become what you worship. Yeah. We didn't have affirmative action hiring in the church until recently. And so what does that say about what the church has been doing and who they've been pointing to as our savior, essentially?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard someone say, well, the church needs to learn from this policy or that policy, or the church needs to learn from Starbucks? I heard somebody say the church needs to learn from Starbucks because Starbucks set aside an entire day for racial sensitivity training. And I'm like, Jesus actually said something about how a student becomes like his master.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so we need to learn from Starbucks. That's the plan. Even Eric Mason said that the church has a lot to learn from hip hop. Like, Jay-Z.
Like Jay-Z and stuff.
And yeah, like Jay-Z. And in fact, I think he named Jay-Z. I don't know about that, man.
That's terrible, man.
I don't know about that.
But speaking of hip hop, I was actually pretty encouraged. Kanye West is donating $2 million to all of these people's families, setting them up with college. And it was kind of refreshing because I haven't heard him make any of the virtue signaling, like statements like the rest of the celebrities.
Yeah.
But if he believes that these people were victims, or maybe if he doesn't, he just feels bad for them for
nice. Yeah. Just being nice. Yeah.
It was so refreshing. Christian Kanye West doing more than all of the virtue signaling celebrities combined.
Well, the virtue signaling too. I was talking to my wife last night and she made an interesting point. And, don't hate on my wife because she feels sorry about all this stuff and she's very sensitive about this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But she said that the whole idea of like you need to lament publicly. We see you when you don't say anything. We see you when you don't post anything like we do. It just like it strikes her, and I think this is very astute. Like what Jesus criticized in the Pharisees, where you pray so that you're seen. You do these things so that you're seen. And it's like, okay, so now you've got your reward. So everyone that pat you on the back, all the likes you got, that's it. That's your reward. You got it. Congratulations. And it's like especially when you demand that other people do it, it's like it's so transparent what you're up to.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. You've seen the videos of like all of the people going around having white people bow down.
Oh my.
Little impromptu worship services. I thought we were not allowed to have those.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, yeah, everything's happening, man. It's all happening.
I just think this is so God. I think this is man trying to accomplish his own plans, but God weaving this into his story somehow to make these double-minded Christian fools look the fools that they are. We were going along, not gathering for worship because big government told us not to, because we might get sick. And then on a dime, it flips. We couldn't have funerals for people. You couldn't sing in church. You couldn't have communion. But now, if you're not out in groups with the masses protesting, you're like the problem. You're a sinner. You may not even be a Christian.
You might not even be a Christian. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. And we're getting this mixed message. It's so crazy. And you expect it from the pagans. Like I saw some health organization, I forget which one it was, like, I don't know, it was like a global health thing that said that, COVID was bad, but like white supremacy is a lot older than COVID, and it harms a lot more people. And it's just like, you guys, like, it's so to a normal person, it's very obvious what you're up to. Mm-hmm. But the sad part though is that Christians, bought into the coronavirus when it was just shutting down church. I mean, just church. It's just church.
Right.
But now it's like, well, you have to lament with those who lament. And, it's not really looting. It's mostly peaceful. I mean, maybe you should even join it. And it's pretty sad stuff, man. It's pretty brutal. God is making us fools.
He seriously is. And, honestly, I think we did a decent job of treading lightly, not being super condemning, not even calling people out who decided not to meet. But we were like saying, like, you can't have the government decide this for you. This can't be the way you decide it. I feel like you and I did a really good job of that.
We tried.
I mean, we tried. And people didn't know what to believe. Like, who knows what to believe anymore in this world? But those of us who made the decisions to not meet in church because the government told us it wasn't safe, have now put this comparison with the rioting, the social justice, the bowing down, and asking for forgiveness to minorities. Somehow that now looks to the world more important than gathering as a church. And I'm not saying that the pastors and the Christian leaders knew that was going to happen, but like, that's what we get for just listening to the government.
Right. So what I think I hear what you're saying. Maybe this is what you're saying. So you're saying we can't blame pastors for not knowing that was going to happen, but
correct.
This is the fruit of you making the poor decision before. So it's like now you've got this
ceding the authority to the government.
Right. You ceded your authority to the government. And now what it looks like is you believe that, or everyone believes that really there is worship that's important enough to do in the middle of a pandemic, but it's not the worship of Yahweh. It's the worship of
our gods,
whatever you want to call it. I mean, I was calling it the gods of social justice. I think Doug Wilson called it something a lot more inflammatory than that.
I bet he did. I didn't see it, but I bet he did. And again, I'm not saying that they knew that was going to happen. No one knew that this was going to happen. Are you kidding me? But it's the appearance, it's the perception. That's the picture that the world has now.
Yep.
And the thing is, and then listen to this, guys. This last week, John Roberts sided with the liberals and said that California can regulate the amount of people that attend church. So it's not even that that's then and now's now, so everyone's going back to normal. No, these restrictions are still going to apply to you as a church. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to still obey the government and say you can't sing, you can't have communion, you can't have the sacraments, you could only have a quarter of your church? Right. What do you do now?
Right. What do you do now? You're in a tough spot because Antifa thinks their worship is more important than the coronavirus. And so is your worship more important than the coronavirus? Because the thing is, if this was a plague, Antifa wouldn't be out there doing their things. It's not a plague. It's right. Let's just be honest. Like every day, the death rate plummets more and more. You know what I mean? Every day.
Wait, AD, before you go, the states that opened up faster have lower rates of death.
Of course.
Sorry, go ahead.
So every day, we get more and more information, and we realize it's less and less serious. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? And I think I could hear somebody say, well, yeah, but Antifa, they're lawless and we're not. So we're going to say that we are going to obey the government. And it's just like,
no, we can't do that, man.
This is a bad look, man. It's a bad look.
I'm sorry. Like, this is the point where now I say that if we don't start meeting again, it's sinful. I think I'm at this point right now, just from the optics, from what we know now, from the data perspective, what we've seen our culture react to. Because right now, what we're saying, even if it's this, hey, we're just going to be like lawful or whatever, we're saying we're going to live more in fear of a virus than these worshipers of social justice. They are going to have more of a spirit of boldness and of this passion than we are. Like, that's the testimony we want to have. Like, we can't have that as a church, guys. We can't.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. I think, and this goes back to like being, slow to speak. We were talking about that earlier when it came to the Ahmaud Arbery stuff. And it's like, when the coronavirus came out and they were saying, oh my goodness, it's a 10% death rate because look at all these people that are dying that have the coronavirus. And anyone smart, anyone with half a brain cell that knows anything about data, I shouldn't say half a brain cell, anyone that knows anything about statistics knew, well, we need more information though, because we actually don't know how many people have this, especially when you're telling us simultaneously there's not enough tests, right? So we don't know how deadly this is. We need more information. And the thing is, like pastors and Christians can't be this, like we can't do what everyone wants us to do and just go along with the crowd and make instant snap judgments. Like, we need more information. So before we decide to shut down the worship of God, we need to get the data. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with the Ahmaud Arbery stuff. Like, I don't really know how to solve this, but it's just like, maybe we should just like, every time there's something controversial, just like take a minute, take an hour and think about it first. You know what I mean? I don't know. What's the solution here, Matt? I need you.
Yeah. I think the solution is to be faithful to what God has called us to and to be prepared for these things. Like, we've talked about it before. This has never been done before. We didn't know what to think. Our leadership never knew how to deal with this. And I talked about this a little bit on my show, and we were reading through James and with my colleagues. And it talks about, like, if you don't have wisdom, pray for it. But don't be double-minded, because you won't receive anything. You're going to be going back and forth. And that's exactly what we see from our leaders. That's exactly what we see from our government. We see people taking one position one day and then the opposite position the next day. They're going back and forth. And what does the Bible say? That's a double-minded man. Yep. So the solution is faithfulness to God and obedience to him. And it's going to be, we're going to stop doing worship, or we're going to close for the health because we've prayed about it and we've seek counsel about it. It's not just because the government told us to.
Right. And
we're going to not act like rashly. We're not going to pretend like Twitter is real life and have to respond right away. We're going to pretend to be in the aquarium with our kids. And we're going to take time and pray about it and think about it. Because
I think it's optics. You're right, though, because think about it. Like it's optics. Because when we don't answer something, we don't have a plan instantly. We feel like the optics there are bad. Like we don't know what to do. But the truth is, sometimes we don't know what to do.
right.
Sometimes we don't know the answer. You know.
But
You know what I mean?
okay, yes, and that's true. And I'm granted, we didn't know the right answer in the beginning. We talked about it constantly. We don't know. But when the default to I don't know should not be I'm going to stop doing what God called me to do.
Yes, that's a good point.
That's not the default. That's the misstep.
The default was I don't know. So government, can you tell me what to do?
Right. No, as faithful Christians proclaiming the gospel to the world, loving our neighbors, obeying our God above all else does not look like I don't know what to do, so I'll just go along with the world. It's I'm going to be faithful to God, and I'm going to pray for wisdom, and then we will make decisions based on that. That's just the testimony of what we should be having.
Yeah, man.
We should be leading the world. We have wisdom, not the world. Oh my goodness.
I think so. A lot of people this week, Matt, we're talking about how there's a new civic religion, basically. And I was talking about it. John Harris is talking about it. James White was talking about it. Doug Wilson was talking about it. We all were talking about it. Now, we didn't, before you get any ideas, conspiracy theorists, we weren't plotting to put out videos at the same time. I admitted, I said that John Harris's video gave me boldness to say what I've been thinking about this for a long time. So it wasn't coordinated, but it sort of was, because I saw John say it. And I was like, yeah, this is right. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, like, a lot of our leaders have kind of bought into this civic religion, at least in part. I think one time we were talking about Jonathan Lehman's article about Romans 13. And I said in my video about that, I said that in this area, I'm not saying in his whole life, but in this area, he's embraced unbelief because he's not acting like a Christian when it comes to civic, government authority versus church authority. He's acting like, just a typical state-loving pagan. And that's the issue, because when we don't know what to do, like you said, Matt, we're supposed to go to God. We're supposed to ask for wisdom. We're supposed to pray. We're supposed to figure this out. What we're not supposed to do when we don't know what to do is to be like, hey, Mr. President, do it for me.
Yeah.
Because that's almost like a low-key prayer, when it's like, well, we're confused, we're scared, we don't have all the information. So what do? It's a low-key prayer almost.
It's going back to Egypt.
That's right.
We would have been better off not leaving Egypt.
We would have been. That's a good point. Wow.
And I humbly want to disagree a little bit. I believe the religion is there. The civic religion is there, but I don't think it's new at all. I think it's been in our closets. It's been on our shrines, but it becomes manifested in these trials. Who do we turn to when we need saving? Who we believe can save us?
It's a good
point.
And
it doesn't just appear,
because it doesn't appear when things are going great. Mm-hmm. Why would it?
You don't need it.
Right. Good point.
You don't need anything. And so I think, like I said before, it's this natural, logical conclusion of social justice warrior comes from worshiping government and these affirmative action policies where we have to help Black people be successful because they couldn't do it on their own.
Right.
And that's what we've been doing. And that's Social Security, that's Medicare, that's save now, save now. We need universal health care. We need universal income. Save now, save now. That's what this is. It's just that the church is giving into it.
So, Matt, what you're saying is that this is all related. Everything that's happening it's all related to each other.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think so.
It sounds like a conspiracy theory.
It does sound like one of the things is so funny. This is another one of those things. And this is what I just loved today. I'm celebrating. My drink of choice is based on my mood. I have Belvini 14 Caribbean cask. It's a delicious celebratory scotch.
I definitely privilege.
It is. Yes, it's a Caribbean cask. White privilege. But I'm celebrating because God has made the fools out of people. And it's the perfect timing. Just the last couple of weeks, people like us, online pundits, were getting nailed for questioning the narratives. We're conspiracy theorists. We shouldn't be about this stuff. We should be above it as Christians. It's sinful to question the narrative. And I kid you not, in the paper today, The Guardian is a story of an investigation of a small 3-person company, a adult film actress, a science fiction writer, and I don't know who the third one was. It didn't say in the report. That set policy for the World Health Organization and several other national governments. They've claimed to be a leading authority on medical data, and they have nothing published, and it's a fraud. And the World Health Organization, the people we're supposed to listen to because they have our best interests in mind, national governments, including our own media, the report that they put out that changed the policy of these national governments and the WHO, get this, was that hydrochloroquine was killing people. Do you remember that? Remember Donald Trump was touting it, saying you should take it, talk to your doctor about it. And then this report came out that said, actually, people that are taking it in larger dosages are dying at a higher rate. That came from this 3-person company, this fraud. And this, again, I just got to laugh. Like, praise God. Thank you so much. Like, just being wise and these fools telling us that we shouldn't think and just go along with the narrative. You have stories like this. Like, do you guys feel ashamed? Do you feel embarrassed? You should be repenting. You should be embarrassed, not us.
It's
not
crazy.
us.
It's crazy because, there's so much of this going on right now that of God making people fools. It's like, the article against conspiracy theory on Gospel Coalition comes out, and then like 2 days later, the entire Gospel Coalition spinning yarns. Like I saw somebody on Gospel Coalition saying that when the riots started, he instantly started thinking, they're white supremacists that are actually doing the looting because his theology says that black people are innocent, of course. So he knows that there's white. There has to be, because how else will this be happening? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, so a couple days after the Gospel Coalition gets all indignant about conspiracy theories, they're spinning yarns. They're spinning yarns. And then it comes out that these conservative conspiracy theories about the WHO and about all this stuff, they're true.
They're true.
They're actually true. Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't have to come up with a yarn about that. All I had to do is say this. There's facts, indisputable facts, that the WHO said that this was no big deal. Then all of a sudden it was a big deal. So they were either lying then or they're lying now. It doesn't matter. I don't have to decide which one it is. All I have to know is those 2 facts, and I know the WHO is full of it.
Right.
I don't believe the WHO anymore. And when Trump says we should defund the WHO, obviously we should defund the WHO, because obviously they were lying then or they're lying now. I don't know which one. I don't care. So that's all I need to know. I don't need to spin a yarn about that, but that's the kind of thing that gets called a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, right. Questioning, using wisdom, being skeptical.
Just
that is conspiracy theory. Yeah, right.
But you're right, though. This is a good time for celebration.
It is a good time.
Water, but I'd love to celebrate with you.
No White Claws at the new house.
No White Claws. Well, maybe I'll have maybe next time. Maybe next time I'll get a mango White Claw or maybe a black cherry. Ooh.
My neighbor has White Claws on stock all the time, so I have one every once in a while.
There you go.
He heats his pool to 90 degrees in Florida. Living the high life. And before anyone's like, oh, that's white privilege again, he's actually Mexican. So don't give me that white privilege stuff. Orale, Holmes. But okay, so it is time to celebrate and praise God. Being thankful that wisdom prevails and it's evident to anybody who wants to see it. But seriously, guys, the battle is not even close to being over. And if you made mistakes in the past with your church or your blogs or your podcast, whatever it was, like, just repent, pray to God for wisdom, and get ready for this fight. Because like we said, the restrictions aren't gone. The restrictions for you to meet in churches, depending on what state you're in, still exist. So you are going to have to be prepared to either bow down to the government while they're allowing other worship services to happen on the streets and in other places, or you're going to have to be ready to fight this. And because maybe not into our fault, because we didn't know what to believe, we've already conceded ground The battle is going to be more fierce than it would have been if we stopped it in the beginning. And we need to be prepared for this. And we need to be encouraging our leaders. We need to be praying for them because the battle's not over. This isn't the end where we're celebrating and, oh, that was a good story. It's a pause. It's a shift. It's a new battleground that's forming. And we better respond better than we have in the past because the stakes are getting higher and higher as we go on. Would you agree with that, AD?
I would agree with that. And I had a patron for my YouTube channel. He made a very astute observation about this. And I think that we all should consider this, including you and me, Matt, that this fight against critical theory, social justice, just really liberalism in all its forms, it's really like an undertow. It's really like a rip current. And it's like it's powerful, but you don't feel it. And you're not paying attention really to it. And before you know it, you're nowhere near where you started. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before you know it, you're gone. You're like, you were over there on the beach. Now you're over here. And it's like, what happened? And so it's something that you kind of constantly need to be aware of in yourself. And again, it's not like, you start saying some social justice-y things, you lost your salvation or something like that. Right. But you don't want to get into that mob, into that crowd, because the Bible says you shouldn't join the crowd. You shouldn't go with the many to do evil. And a lot of times we hear a verse like that and we read about Israel, doing their crazy worship back in the Old Testament. And we almost dehumanize it to the point where it's like, how could they do that? Because we get the idea that they just woke up one morning and they said, oh, I'm going to worship Baal. It wasn't like that. It was like, it was probably a lot like it is right now, where you make little compromises here and there, and you don't really think what you're doing is evil. You don't think that posting on your Facebook that, look at this racist cop killing this guy. Like, you don't think that's evil. You think it's the right thing, but really what you just did was you slandered a guy. Yeah. But the thing is, like, the mob, the crowd that you just joined, they'll never be satisfied with this guy. So don't think for a second that, well, it's just Derek Chauvin. I mean, he seems like a jerk, so he probably deserved it anyway. Well, yeah, maybe he did, but it's not going to stop there. Pretty soon it's going to go to the next guy, the next guy, the next. You're just going to keep compromising yourself a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But before you know it, you don't even know what's ways up. You don't know what ways down. That's how it works. It's not like one day the people of Israel decided that, oh yeah, I know Yahweh says we should go right, but I'm gonna go left. Right. No, it's that rip current. Yeah. That took them, and before you know it, they're all the way right. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Let me add to this, because growing up in California, living in Hawaii, I know these rip currents really well. Is when you are in the water, what you do is you keep your eyes on the lifeguard tower that your stuff is at. Because if you are faced out to the ocean, when you don't have your mind, when your eyes fixed on the lifeguard tower, your marker on land, you can't tell, like you were saying, AD, you can't tell that you've been drifting. All of a sudden, you just realize you're a mile down the beach because of the rip current. But when you are constantly looking back and saying, oh, I'm starting to drift, I need to get out and walk back, or I can paddle against the tide, depending on how strong it is. That's how you know. And as Christians, that's how we know, is when we keep our eyes focused on Christ, we know when we're starting to drift, and we can repent instantly and paddle back, get out, walk back. But it's when we become that double-minded man that James talks about, when we're not focused on the lifeguard tower, we're off looking at other surfers, we're off looking at the waves coming ahead, we're not fixed on what we're supposed to be fixed on. That's when we get in trouble. And I feel like that's just a lot of what we did in the situation.
Yeah, no, that's a very, I thought that was a very astute observation, but you added a lot to it. That's really, really good stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah, that was a good Patreon of yours. You got some smart patrons over there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. That was really good. Oh man, there's so much more I wanted to get to. Is there anything? Oh, I was thinking about this, and I wanted to throw it out there because it was kind of encouraging to me. Is there's so much stuff going on. It's terrible, and I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he was talking with these two people that are doing this podcast, and one's a populist, one's a liberal, and they have this like supposedly alternative show where they have different opinions. But I mean, a populist and a liberal are the same in a lot of ways, I thought. But they were talking about how easy it's been to see the veneer of civilization just be ripped off with the isolating us in our homes, right, with the rioting and things like that. And it's becoming evident of how fragile our societies are, that the government doesn't really have as much control as they seem, that we don't really have as much freedom as we do. And I was kind of distraught about that and was thinking, man, that's true. And I was a little bit depressed. But then I was remembering my own salvation story where God revealed to me my fragileness. He ripped the veneers off of my life where I thought I had it all together. And then he showed me and he revealed to me that I didn't. I was a mess, that I had a black hole in my heart and it was gaping and I needed him. I didn't have a choice. There was no other option. And so I just want to encourage us in that, in the riots, in the government overreach, in our failures of our big evil leadership, and maybe even our own pastors one way or another, is that this can be a great opportunity to recenter and to refocus on that lifeguard tower, because this is what God does. He rips away the facades in our lives, the false gods and the false foundations. And there's room for him to move there, I think. And that could be what's happening here for us. Like, it's not lost. And look at me sounding all post-mill. Save me. Yeah. Save me. Oh my gosh. All I needed was those people to bow down to start getting a chip. And then I would have like pre-mill checkmate on everyone. But that's how close we are. Bow down, worship, get the mark of the beast. And I'm right. No, that's not how it works. Oh my goodness. All right, AD, any last words before we get out of here?
No, man. No, I'm feeling good. I'm glad that we had this talk, and I'm glad that you're going to be post-mill soon.
Yeah, dude, this was a really great conversation. I love these where I have an outline and it doesn't go that way, but it was a really good conversation. So if you want to support us, be part of the show live, come over to the patreon.com/reformgelical. You'll get a YouTube link where you can comment and you can be part of the show. If you want to catch us Fridays, it's when we release the show on podcast and on YouTube for the public. You can follow us, Real AD Robles, on Twitter, and we are now on Parler. I highly recommend everyone go over to Parler. Isn't it amazing how many hits you get off Parler?
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty impressive.
It's like all those times, like talking about doubting yourself, where you're like, are we really getting shadow banned or are we just lame? And then you go over there and like, how am I getting twice as many hits with a 20th of the followers?
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, so go over to Parler, Parler. Check us out. I think AD, you're Real AD Robles over there too. Is that your handle? Right. Yep. Real AD Robles. I'm How to Build a Tent. Give us a follow, join in the conversation, send us your conspiracy theories, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless.
God bless.